Hey, what's going on, fellas? This week for our podcast, I decided I was just going to come on here and I'm just going to talk candidly. Just me, no guests, nobody to interview. I just want to talk straight with y'all about how I beat porn and other addictive behaviors, mindless behaviors, private struggles in my life that has me now living a life of purpose. All right, let's get into it.
Welcome to the Get Your Shift Together Men's Podcast with your host, Dr. Myron Edmonds.
All right, what's going on, fellas? I'm in the building and I'm here all by myself and I'm coming straight up, raw, real. I want to just share a little bit of me today without anybody else. I just wanted to talk directly to all of y'all out there who have supported us. Welcome to the Get Your Shift Together Men's Podcast. If you're a first timer, I want you to do me a favor and make sure you like, share, subscribe, whatever platform you're watching this on, but especially if you're on YouTube, please subscribe to this so you can get the notifications that we're trying to help men to win in the things that matter. By the way, a lot of people have asked, like, what does it mean to get your shift together? I'm actually going to be talking about that today because that's pretty much been my life story. There's a lot of brothers out there. Your greatest frustration is you. And you just like, man, if I can just get my together. Yeah, that's what I want to talk about today. So don't worry, we're going to share more about that. Listen, I want to help you to see where you are as a man. So this is something we do here at the Winning Circle Inc. And we give you this I am a high integrity man assessment, right? This is a character assessment, a character evaluation. We believe that the foundation for all greatness, all success really is not talent, but it's character. It's not gifts, you know what I'm saying? But it's like your identity and who you are. So go to this website. If you're listening, if you're watching, you see the website being in the ticker below. Just I am a high integrity man.com. Once again, I am a high integrity man.com. Fill it out. Get back the results. This is a great way to just kind of do some self introspection, just kind of gauge and see where you are from a character perspective. And I think it's gonna help a lot of brothers to get a chance to, you know what I'm saying, see how they can really go to the next level. Everybody always want to go to the next level. Well, if you're gonna go, you got to go first with the foundation, and that's your character. I am a high integrity man.com. All right, fellas, look, again, I just want to encourage you right now. Make sure you please subscribe to this YouTube channel. We got a lot of great content. A lot of brothers have been blessed by the stuff that we've been sharing. And man, without further ado, I want to jump into this. So here's my story, right? And I haven't, I think about it. I was like, man, I never really like shared my story in this podcast platform. Brothers really like need to know who I am and why I do what I do to lead this movement to help men win in the things that matter. Again, like if you're new to this whole movement, the whole goal of this movement is to help men to win in what matters. And the reason why that's important to me is because your boy wasn't winning. And somebody can relate to that. I was winning externally, meaning as a professional, as a pastor. I'm a pastor. I had the look, I had the good looking wife, the good looking kids, the nice house, the nice car. But man, I was not winning at all, man. Privately, personally, struggling. And what people saw was pretend. It was a facade. And so, I mean, this is kind of how my story basically goes. I'm the only biological child out of five. Those of you who came up in these kind of family environments, you probably can relate. Um, my parents adopted my four other brothers and sisters, and they came from, varied backgrounds, mostly at risk, like troubled, difficult backgrounds. But honestly, I never saw those my life, my childhood as a disadvantage. I never felt like that my siblings that came to live with us were infringing upon my lifestyle. As a matter of fact, I really feel like that was one of the best things that ever happened to me. My dad is a pastor. My mom was a lawyer. I come a church boy from like a church family. So whether you can relate or not to that, what you can probably relate to is like maybe growing up in an environment that has a lot of trauma, a lot of brokenness, man, a lot of issues, dysfunctional family dynamics. Um, my sister was adopted. My parents adopted her when I was 18 months. She's 3 years old. She's Korean. My brother, my mother was working at the Housing Authority, Section 8. She was an employee there in New Jersey. And when my dad was pastoring there, we adopted my brother right there in New Jersey. He came at 12 years old. And then subsequently, we moved to the DC area. And my dad was pastoring there. All these moves took place as a result of my dad's job as a pastor. And we found out that my cousins, boy and a girl, were going from one foster home to the other, and in really bad situation in Baltimore. And my parents adopted them. Now that's not even half the story. Like we had over 70 people that lived in our house from the time I was a kid up until the time I left. It was that type of situation. And so there were people coming in and out of the house. There was, my parents were, my dad's a pastor, so they were trying to help as many people as they possibly could. And so I saw a little bit of everything. I tell people all the time, I didn't grow up in the hood, but the hood grew up in my house. I remember the first time seeing somebody use drugs. It wasn't out in the streets. It was at home in our garage. We had somebody living with us who was addicted to heroin. We had alcoholics. We had all this stuff. But in a sense, I could sense that like that upbringing was necessary for me, so that I wouldn't be like sheltered and bougie. And so honestly, I thank my parents. I want to thank my parents for making the choice to put me in that environment. I know there's some people who do everything they can to protect their kids from negative influences, but there was nothing but there was a positive experience for me. It helped me to see what real life was really about, what people were going through, that I really wasn't that different than a lot of people. The reason I think it's important for you to understand that part of my story and my journey is because from early on, because I was the only biological child, at least the one who was living in a house where everyone was adopted except me. I always had this desire to fit in, to not be seen as different than my brothers and sisters, to not be seen as, I wanted as much as they wanted to be accepted, probably by me, I wanted to be accepted by them. And so a lot of times I just wanted to be loved. I wanted to be accepted. But as a middle child, watching some of the struggles that they went through, coming from the backgrounds that they came from, trying to acclimate to this new environment, it caused a lot of strain and stress in our family. My sister ran away, at 18 years old to Las Vegas. My brother, he got in and out of a lot of trouble, a lot of fights. There was just a lot of adjustment. There was legal stuff and there was emotional stuff. And, when you come from the backgrounds of abuse and violence and you throw that into this suburban home with a married couple, it brings its own set of challenges. And I'm in the middle of this as a kid. And one of the things I saw early on is I saw how the family dynamics of my adopted brothers and sisters and myself put such a strain on my parents' marriage. So as a child, I always felt pressure. And I want you to follow me. I always felt pressure. Hear me on this, fellas. I always felt pressure to be the good kid. It's a middle child syndrome. Some have called it hero child syndrome. If you look it up, really what it is like sometimes we will find a certain place to survive in our families based upon whatever the dynamics are. And so I felt like my place was I had to be the good kid because all my brothers and sisters had their own set of challenges. Not that they were bad, but I could see subconsciously how it was impacting my parents' marriage. Now, fast forward, my parents ended up getting divorced. It was a public, ugly, pastoral divorce in our little small church community. It was humiliating, embarrassing. I was in my 30s, pastoring, just started a pastorate in Cleveland, Ohio. And I didn't think that my parents' failed marriage and the way that it went down would have impacted me the way that it did. And you'll see how all this connects. So just going back to that, just get this in your, I always had, and that's why I always encourage brothers, man, that if you're going to beat anything, and this is what we're talking about today, we're talking about how I quit porn, how I quit a bunch of maladaptive behaviors, how I quit a lot of self-medicating, how I stopped settling and living in mediocrity, doing enough to get by, like being impressive, but not really being a man of integrity. Like that's kind of who I was. I was impressive, but I wasn't a man of integrity. I wasn't really true to myself. I had such a need to be loved and to be liked and be accepted and to make sure that this family stayed intact. So I subconsciously felt like I had to be the good kid. So I had to excel in sports. I had to excel in the classroom. I had to excel like with God. Anything that would make me look like a good guy, I felt like I had to do that because I felt like my family, my parents, they needed somebody to be proud of. They needed somebody to bring peace to all the madness and the drama in the family. And I could see that my parents' marriage was teetering like my entire childhood. And sometimes you can't process this stuff. But I knew that something was wrong. And I knew that I felt like I had to do something about it. And the truth is like going about my life that way, I didn't realize that I was falling into a trap of my own personal trauma of essentially like looking the part. I want you to hear me because I feel like you are perfectly equipped to help the former version of yourself. And I could see early on how this pretentiousness was being built in me, this being impressive, being liked was being fostered, was being, you know what I'm saying? That mindset was growing in me. So you fast forward now, and I end up getting married. I got a wife and I got kids, and now I'm a pastor. And one of the things that started happening early on in the marriage was because I had such a desire from childhood that was built in me through the trauma of what was going on in my family. I had such a desire to be impressive, to be successful. I'm highly ambitious. I played sports. I did all of those things. I just wanted to be the man. You know, just real talk. I just wanted to be the man. I wanted to be the man. And I couldn't turn that off. And so my ambition and my drive for success, man, greatly negatively impacted my marriage to my wife. I was never home the way I should be. I wasn't in tune with my wife. I wasn't a good husband. Simultaneously, while all of this is happening, the age of the internet and pornography combine to make this toxic, you know what I'm saying, cocktail that set me on a path of addiction. So, you know, things are going on in the marriage. I'm frustrated because I'm not getting sex. I'm frustrated because I feel like my wife is not supportive. She's not, you know, affectionate and all of these things. When in reality, and I'm not saying this is everybody's case, in reality, I didn't know how to emotionally dial into my wife. I was trying to be the man. I was trying to, as a pastor, be a great pastor and build communities. And I was helping everybody else's family. And I remember my wife said to me something that really stuck out to me that I've kind of used as a mantra to help men to like see the stupidity, right, of what it means sometimes to be a man. Like most men like me, we struggle like trying to be men, trying to achieve, trying to be successful, trying to make stuff happen. And most of the time we do that to the neglect of ourselves. We do that to the neglect of our marriages, our families, our kids. Like I've seen this pattern in my own life, and I see this pattern being repeated in so many men's life. If you can relate, let me know in the comments. So my wife said to me, she's like, dude, you're Clark Kent at home, but you're Superman out there. Bro, I was bringing home the leftovers, and I was a weak dude at home. Weak, man. I mean, just weak. I mean, I wasn't really helpful. I wasn't really dialed into my wife. I wasn't emotionally connecting. I wasn't nice. All the stress and strain and effort to be great was for people, to be impressive, to be successful, to have things. And then I would come home and essentially use my wife to self-medicate on my own emptiness. And all I really wanted, man, was sex, to be honest. And a lot of this, the desire for porn and for sex started early as a kid. You know what I'm saying? Like many of y'all, man, I saw porn as a kid, but something happened, man, when these devices came out and the internet came out and the access and the availability. And so I just figured, you know what I'm saying? Look, I ain't going to cheat, but I'm going to do something. I'll beat my meat, I'll get into some porn. And that was honestly, now that I know it, I realized, man, that it was just my way of self-medicating pain that I had of feeling rejected or feeling not good enough, feeling like I couldn't please my wife in bed, trying to figure out why, you know what I'm saying? She didn't want me. I'm thinking she didn't want me because I wasn't good in bed. There's a lot of brothers out there. We just feel like, our identity, you know what I'm saying? Our sense of value sometimes connected to our prowess in the bedroom. And so, we had that whole thing and it went for years, especially when we had kids and stuff, man. It was just frustrating. And so, man, that's how porn kind of got in my life. And I got so addicted to porn that I just had to have it. And I couldn't stop thinking about it. And there are many of you out there who can relate to that. And it wasn't just porn. Like, that's the juicy stuff. A pastor who is addicted to porn. I would preach, honestly, changing people's lives, traveling all over the world, all over the country. I started getting a little name recognition, a little bit of a following. And man, it was always I was always most vulnerable to pornography. Like after something good happened, after I preached a good sermon, like that's what I was living that double type of life. But all people saw was like, this dude is a good dude, man. He's a good guy. I was losing connection with my wife and being more connected to porn. I was disconnected from my own kids. No, this is my story, man. Addicted to porn, disconnected from my wife, and then so caught up in trying to be the man, so caught up in trying to be successful. I hope this helps somebody. That my relationship with my kids was even transactional. I had a transactional relationship with my wife. You're like, give me sex and I'll be nice to you, that type of stuff, and then with my kids, it was, I love my kids, but for whatever reason, I was not fully present with them. My mind was never there. My daughter literally said it. She didn't know what she said. She was so small. I don't know how she knew what she was saying, but my daughter literally said to me, she was like, Daddy, you're with us, but you're not with us. Like I was with work. I was with what I'm trying to do, what moves I was trying to make, what books I was trying to write, what sermons I had to preach, what events I was trying to plan. Like that I really wasn't with my kids. And nobody knew this. It looked good. I looked good. The pictures looked good. The reputation looked good. The character was faulty, bruh. It was faulty. And I just feel like there's a lot of brothers who relate to this. And so I started thinking that, you know what I'm saying? We always pick the thing that seems like it's the worst. So, as a Christian, as a man of God, porn must be my problem. I've got a porn problem. I'm addicted to sex. I'm addicted to perversion. I'm addicted to that type of stuff. And I thought that was the issue. And what I started doing was trying to attack porn. I tried to find ways in this. And I want y'all to hear me on this. I want to tell you how you really get the victory over this bad behavior, whatever your stuff is, whether porn, alcohol, weed, you know what I'm saying? Work, prostitutes, womanizing, gambling, whatever addictive behaviors you have. One of the things I learned was my addictive behavior was not my problem. It was not my issue. I had focused so much on the fruit that I did not get to the root. And as I started, getting a therapist, as I started trying to really pursue healing, something that we as men don't really pursue. Like, we don't really talk healing talk. You know what I'm saying? We don't talk that type of stuff. For most men, we out here dying trying to be men. And so if it ain't about making money, if it's not about making moves, if it's not about success, if it's not about our ambitions, if it's not about any of those things, we don't really pay attention to us as men, our health, what's going on inside of me. Why am I like this? Why the facade? Why is my reputation better than my character? Why? And so I thought it was just the porn issue. If you grow up in a religious culture like I do, you think that's, if I can just fix this, then I'll be all right. And I would go back and forth, relapse, back and forth, relapse, back and forth, have moments of sobriety, go back, moments where I got victory and then go back. Something would trigger me and I would go back. And I started realizing, man, that it wasn't working. And then, man, as the proliferation of social media came to play, it's not just porn, but it's just the mindless scrolling. It's the FOMO. It's just the wasting of time. And I started feeling like I was losing myself. I started feeling like that I was not in control of my life anymore. I started feeling like I was losing, as in every area that mattered the most. Losing as a husband, failing. Losing my relationship with God, failing. Losing as a father, failing, but doing enough to get by. But I didn't have no peace about it. I had no peace about it, bro. And there's some of y'all listening to me right now, you don't got no peace about it. And so how did I turn this thing around? What I realized is that I was trying to fix a weed by cutting it at the surface instead of pulling it up by the root. And here's what I want you to see. Whatever you're struggling with, and my issue wasn't porn, I had an identity crisis. I believe that whoever you think you are as a person, whatever your behavior is going to be a reflection of who you think you are. So that's the first thing I want to tell you. You have got to get clear on who you are as a person, because as long as you are unsure about who you are as a person, what you are called to do, what your gifts are, what your story is, what your place is, what your purpose is, what your relationships are, until you define you, then you are always going to look at whatever struggles and whatever issues you have as simply the issue instead of getting to the root issue, which is everything flows from identity. All right, so how do we get a hold of this? I grabbed a hold of something that was life-changing for me, and I want to just offer this to you all. That whatever you are struggling with is not your struggle. You are more complicated than that. You're more complicated than just than your addiction. You're more complicated than your lack of emotional connection. You're more complicated than your depression. You're more complicated than your anxiety. You're more complicated than your fear. You're more complicated than your mistakes. You are more, don't be a surface thinker, be a system thinker. And the reason why I told you my story is because all of these different layers, my upbringing, the difficult, the struggles, I even discovered in therapy that I am a victim of sexual abuse. I had to start uncovering, like, who is this? Because I realized I'm more complicated than the stuff I'm doing. And there are a lot of us out there, you are consumed with what you're not doing. You're consumed with your failure. You're consumed with your mistakes. You're consumed with what you can't accomplish, what you can't do. And I'm telling you that all of those are symptoms of a system. Everything flows out of systems. Everybody has a system. Some brothers have a system. A system is essentially a way about going about life. A system is essentially a way that you go about your life. Some people have a accidental system, and some people have a very decided system. So what I decided to do is, instead of living off the dysfunctional systems that I inherited, the dysfunctional systems that I had to try to create to figure out my place in the world, the dysfunctional systems that I had used, the hyperachiever in me, the people pleaser, the restless guy, all these self-sabotaging mindsets, these poisonous traits that I had. I realized I was living a system that was producing exactly what I was getting, which is looks good on the outside, but man doesn't really have the juice. And it was actually losing in all the areas that matter the most. I don't know if anybody can relate to that frustration of knowing you are living beneath what you are supposed, who you're supposed to be, or just knowing that you're a fraud, knowing that it's all smoke and mirrors, knowing that you're really struggling and people don't even know it. That's because you had an inherited system of survival that can only produce what you're getting. If you want to change your life, I beat porn by not trying to beat porn. I beat being a deadbeat dad and a disconnected husband by not trying to beat those things. I decided I was going to go to the root, and that was, who am I? What type of man do I want to be? What type of dude do I want to be? What kind of legacy do I want to leave? I didn't want to be that guy. I knew that I wanted to be more. So I started there, and then I started building my life around two principles. I want you to get these two principles. This is how you beat porn or any behavior. You beat it first with systems. But what is a system? Well, a system is different than a goal, because I love my man James Clear in his book, Atomic Habits. He gives us the distinction. He said goals basically remind you of what you're not doing. You set a goal. I want to lose weight. And that's cool. But a goal is just a goal. It's just something to aim at. It's just a destination. But how you going to get there is you got to have a vehicle to get you there. And that vehicle is the system. The most effective way to change your habits is to focus not on what you want to achieve, but who you wish to become. And so my goals now are no longer just tasks. My goal is, this is the kind of dude I want to be. And so how do I go about building my life around being this guy? All right. So 3 things you want to do. First, I want you to decide who you want to be as you are trying to build this system, knowing that you're a complicated person, knowing that you're a man of systems, knowing that you are a man that is deeper than just your struggles, deeper than just your ambitions, deeper than just your dreams, deeper than just your failings. There's more to you than that. And you can't approach your life without a system. So decide who you want to be. The second thing is, I want you to choose habits that you will implement in your daily life that reflect the kind of guy you want to be. And then I want you to revise and revisit that on a regular basis. So I'll just tell you right now, here's what the shift is. The shift represents a framework for how you attack the root issues in your life. You don't attack it by focusing on like the weeds. We focus on the roots, the complicated system of roots that's underground. Like if you ever seen these pictures of roots, roots is a complicated system underground. And it's foolish to think that you could just clip off a weed off top and that impact the complicated system of roots. You are a complicated dude. You are a complex dude. There's layers. There are things about you you have not even tapped into yet. There's potential that you've not even seen. There's pain that you've not even uncovered. And you got to be systematic. And the way to be systematic is to create a system around what I call the S.H.I.F.T framework. And the S.H.I.F.T framework basically is spiritual life, my health life, I for integrity, F for family, and T for tribe. I believe if you approach all of these with intention, Listen, when I started putting things in place for my spiritual life, meaning this is how I attacked porn. This is how I attacked being a disconnected husband. I said, first, I got to get my spiritual life. I need a spiritual system. And so I started getting up at a certain time of day, studying the word of God, spending time in prayer, having days for fasting. I had to build my spiritual foundation. The second thing is I had to start taking care of my health. So I started working out, eating right, going to the doctor, spending time with a therapist, drinking water, because I realized that I'm a complicated individual. And sometimes my body affects my mind and my mind affects my body. And then I had to get an integrity system. An integrity system is essentially me defying mediocrity in every area of my life. I tell people all the time, integrity is not like, integrity is not, just being honest. Integrity is when you get to a place where you have such a disdain, a hatred for mediocrity. You are pushing yourself to growth. So I put myself intentionally in growth spaces, learning spaces, coaching spaces, anywhere where I could learn to improve, where I could learn to develop, where I could learn to grow. I did that. And then family. I had to have a system for my family. Listen, if my wife and I ain't close, it's because the investments ain't being made. It's too many withdrawals. So I started getting a system for family, date nights with my wife every week on Thursday, and up early in the morning, working out with her, and then prayer with her, and then texting throughout the day. All of this is in my calendar. Vacations, conversations. They say if you spend 90 minutes with your wife a day, it'll draw your heart closer to her. So I had a system for that with my kids, spending time with them. Certain days, date night with my daughter, and daddy dates even with my son. We don't call it dates, but days when we just go out, we hang out, but pouring into my system. And even my parents and my siblings, and making sure I'm nurturing my relationships. And then last but not least, having a tribe, a community, a group of accountability. There are studies that show that if you have a group of men that you commit to on a regular basis about a particular area or goal that you have in your life, you are 95% more likely to reach that goal and to be successful in whatever it is that you're trying to pursue. I realized I wasn't going to beat porn. I wasn't going to be spiritual. I wasn't going to be a good husband. I wasn't going to be a good father. I wasn't going to be a good man of God. I wasn't going to be successful in business unless I surrounded myself with people. Now, that system, that shift system, is what neutralized pornography, because I wasn't just trying to attack the weed. I attacked the roots. I had a complicated system that was disjointed. I had a system that was based on survival and not based on success and winning. And the thing I love about a system, and I'll say this right now as I'm done. See, when you're chasing a goal, you're constantly reminded that you ain't there yet. But when you're in a system, you're winning every day. I win every day because I'm living this system. And listen, even on the days that I miss something in my system, maybe my time with God, maybe time with the wife, maybe self-improvement, I have a 2-day rule where I say I'll never miss twice. And so I'm winning right now, not because of what I'm going to be, but because of what I'm living in, because I have a system. And so I just want to tell you fellas right now, if you got any issues in your life, I want to encourage you to look at it holistically, look at it systemically. I use this illustration all the time. Michael Jordan is a great example of someone who went from rolling from a symptomatic perspective to a systematic perspective. When Jordan first got to the Bulls, the offense was put the ball in his hands. The issue they thought was losing, right? And they said the way to win is to keep the ball in Michael's hands. I think it was Collins was the coach. And you can see videos of this online where he literally he lost his job because the Bulls could not get past the Pistons. And although Jordan was hitting 50 and 60 and creating some crazy highlights, he just couldn't get it done. Phil Jackson comes along, brings Tex Winners along. Y'all know this. And a system is implemented that actually takes the ball out of Jordan's hands majority of time, puts a triangle offense in place. The system changed and the winning started. Somebody looked at the root issue. The root issue is Jordan got the ball too much. That we've got to find a way to play not only to his strengths, but the strengths of his team. And because a system was implemented, winning started happening. And so I want to tell you right now, your problem is not the problem that you're focused on. Your problem is deeper than that. It's more psychological than that. It's more sociological than that. It's more theological than that. Your stuff is deep, and you cannot deal with weeds unless you go to the complex root system, building a system that can help you win. And I'm telling you right now, I thank God I sit here porn free. I sit here in love with my wife. I sit here right now with the love and the respect of my children, who are both young adults doing great things. I have peace in my heart. Like, I got peace, man. I got peace. Bro, I feel like that's the number one thing men want, is we just want to be at peace with ourselves, at peace with our relationship, at peace with our life. I know that I'm moving in the right direction. I know that I'm going to win because I'm in a system that's going to take me there. I can't be stopped. I can't be stopped. I can't stop. I'm not going to block myself any longer. I got a system. So look, you get a system, it'll supercharge everything about your life. I want you to start thinking in terms of right now, how can I start living more deliberately in the 5 main areas of life? Spiritual life, health, integrity, family, tribe. Much love to y'all, fellas. Tell me what you think about this conversation. Tell me what you think about my story, and let's talk about it. Listen, do me a favor. I need y'all to be a part of this community. So listen, please subscribe to our YouTube page. Hang in there with us. We got some great stuff coming your way. Love y'all, fellas. Winning what matters. Peace.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Get Your Shift Together Men's Podcast. For more information, please visit our website, menswinningcircle.com. That is, menswinningcircle.com. Let's win in the things that matter.